Good afternoon. My name is Mike Newman. I'm the Senior Trade Investment Commissioner for Investment New South Wales, covering the North Asian markets. I'm going to talk about New South Wales, but it's going to be unconventional. And I think we need to look at this as while all of these things around the clean energy space are wonderful, and we should pursue them, there's always the economic lens that we must pay attention to, the financial lens. So a bit of my background, I spent 25 years in investment banking. And it's always important to make sure that we're on top of the commercial applications of all this technology. So this is where my presentation will touch on. Just to begin with, we could build an electrolyzer right in this hall here. If we have electricity, water, we can make it. The question is whether it's feasible to do so, probably not. But the idea is that every state, of course, will talk about the benefits of their hydrogen programs. But ultimately, what really drives investments is not so much the hydrogen production itself, but the subset of infrastructure that surrounds that. Himangomung. Of course, many Koreans will understand what this word means. For those who don't, it effectively means hope with pain, which means that if we look at what's going on in global energy markets, it's quite clear that we are not in normal times. And the idea that we're going to hope that they return to normal times is frankly impossible at this stage. And why I say that is it's very simple. Lithium carbonate prices up 10 times, cobalt up 3 times, nickel 3 times, oil 3 times, natural gas 3 times. So when you put this in a commercial context, getting to these carbon targets is going to be a challenge, but it's one that we can actually do. And the reason that is, if we take a commercial approach to this, which is basically the fundamental part of what we do. And so energy policy, which I must commend the Korean government, is driven by the economic development agencies. They partner with the corporations to reach net sort of neutrality with carbon. So it's a shared journey, whereas often it's the other way around with other companies, with other governments rather, that we focus from an environmental lens and work backwards and expect the corporates to basically meet the regulations. I think that's a falsehood. So this is actually Monday this week. Ursula von der Leyen, who's the president of the European Commission, basically has said that European energy policy is not fit for purpose. So effectively what we're saying is that 10 years ago, the policies they set for energy are now coming home to roost. So what does that mean for Korean investors and Australians as well? Well, the decisions we make today will have impacts in 10 years' time. And therefore we need to understand what it is we're actually doing. So I thought I'd just give a little bit of a brief snapshot of what's happening from a financial perspective before I touch on New South Wales. Experience is a harsh teacher. You get the test first and the lesson afterwards. This lady is from Ireland, the Republic of Ireland. This is her bill for 73 days of electricity, 10,000 euros for 73 days. Now, anyone in this room can not tell me that that is a ridiculous amount of money to pay for a personal home electricity bill. So if we annualise that, she's looking at 40,000 euros, enough to buy a Genesis car. And this is what small and medium-sized enterprises are also having this conversation. A cafe. I don't know how much one of those coffee machines runs on electricity. I can't imagine it's much. But here at cafe saying their electricity bills are quintupling. A pub in England, electricity prices quadrupling, and at the same time what that's done is they've decided to close their business. Now we also need to understand that over 80% of businesses in general around the world are small to medium-sized enterprises who are the most impacted by this type of thing, which means that we have an absolute commitment to make sure we get the right sort of policies to make sure that we lower energy prices efficiently with as minimal risk as possible. You can see here, even in America, 1 in 6 American households now are struggling to pay their power bills. In Europe, it's around 28%. So these are real world issues, and I think that's always when we're having these summits, we need to address the elephant in the room. It's got so bad that even 130,000 people in the UK are basically saying, we're not going to pay for our electricity post-October because the prices are too expensive. Now, whether that materialises or not is by the by. These are the problems we are facing in our energy markets. So basically, what we believe is coming from this is our team takes a very commercial approach. We have government programs. New South Wales has over $3 billion worth of incentives, which you can read about in these pamphlets at our stage. I won't do it justice here in 10 minutes. We also have this P2X strategy, which runs through exactly what New South Wales is doing and what you can do with New South Wales when it comes to clean energy. But the thing is that, of course, with all of the geopolitical unrest, what we're facing now is making Australia probably one of the best jurisdictions to do business in terms of clean energy because of our low sovereign risk profile. And I'll explain why New South Wales potentially is even better. So here you've got a map of our renewable energy zones. There's 12 gigawatts available. But we, as a commercial team, are speaking very extensively with New South Wales companies, and we think there's another 10 gigawatts extra. These thick black lines you see here are 500 kV lines. So the thing is that because New South Wales is the largest state in Australia, has the largest population, naturally the infrastructure is built for purpose. It's supporting a population of almost 9 million people. In the Hunter region, around Newcastle, 60% of New South Wales energy comes from that area. And why is that important? Because when we connect up these renewable energy sources, they're connecting to 500 kV lines. And what that basically says is that when you're trying to lower the cost of electricity, having the actual inbuilt infrastructure in place makes that journey easier. A bit of a look at Port of Newcastle. So Newcastle is one of the largest ports in the Southern Hemisphere. It's a deep water port, 15.5 metres draft. These are the coal terminals. Much of this power today is coming from here. This is probably exported to Korea, this coal. But what this area here is a vacant bit of land of about 200 hectares, which is available with the Port of Newcastle looking to develop with North Asian partners to grow the clean energy hydrogen ammonia footprint. Now, if you have this amount of land located next to a deep water port, which can take large-scale ships for export, we believe this makes a very powerful argument to lower long-term costs, especially in the short term. Over time, these coal terminals, as coal demand falls away, that will gradually ratchet back and become basically an entire clean energy hub. Port Kembla, which is about 80 kilometres south of Sydney. Same thing, deep water port, 15.5 metre draft. These areas here are coming up for open space to be able to build clean energy. The issue here is that this could do around 1.5 gigawatts. In Newcastle, you could do 2 gigawatts, we think, out to 2030. This is real ability to do these sorts of projects because the infrastructure is in place. The one thing to say about both of these jurisdictions is because they've been exporting coal for the last 50, 60 years, the industrial base that is built around these areas is there. So again, it's one thing to have a fantastic hydrogen strategy. It's another thing to be able to execute upon that. And because of the depth of the workers that work within these areas, you have in Newcastle around 50,000 people who are in the heavy industry areas in terms of heavy electrics, steel, boiler making and so on. So if you're going to build in Newcastle or in Port Kembla, there are already ready-made workforces there to execute upon those plans. And we think that that is pretty much the crux in the near term. If you want to lower energy prices, you want to do large scale, Newcastle and Port Kembla are two jurisdictions that you can really do that. As I said earlier, we have these pamphlets that run through the $3 billion of programs and what that actually means and all the programs that we do. But many of you we've already engaged with in this room. And you know full well that we are also looking at all the commercial opportunities that are based inside of New South Wales, because we believe that the commercial sector, working alongside government, will help accelerate the opportunities here in clean energy. I will leave it there, and thank you very much for your attention.